Hey guys, tonight we're plunging deep, deep into a world so vast, so ancient, so utterly alive. It practically breathes a primeval whisper into your very soul. Imagine, if you will, the air around you thickening, not with dust, but with moisture so profound it feels like a living thing, clinging to your skin, seeping into your clothes. You're not just breathing, you're inhaling the very essence of green, a verdant perfume of decay and rebirth that fills your lungs. Above you, an impenetrable canopy of leaves, layer upon layer, blocks out all but the most determined shafts of sunlight, turning the day into a perpetual twilight. The symphony of the night, or is it day, begins, a thousand insect orchestras tuning up, the chirps and clicks and whistles of unseen creatures, the distant, guttural roar that makes the hairs on your neck stand up, even though you can't quite place it. The ground beneath your feet is a spongy, living carpet of roots and decomposing matter, squelching softly with every step. You feel the oppressive heat, the relentless humidity, and the subtle, chilling sense that you are utterly, completely insignificant here. You probably won't survive this, not without a team of very well-armed, highly experienced guides, an absurd amount of anti-venom, and maybe a small, self-contained air-conditioned bubble. But hey, it's a bedtime story, right? We're just visiting. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always wild to see us all connecting across different corners of the world, sharing these quiet moments together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel it, don't you? That instant, overwhelming rush of heat and dampness as you metaphorically step off the plane. Or perhaps, in our sleepy mind's eye, paddle your canoe into the humid embrace of the Amazon. It's not just a forest, it's an entire universe, one where everything is magnified, intensified. The very air is a living thing, thick with the scent of damp earth, blooming orchids, and the faint, sweet decay of fallen leaves. It hums with the life of a billion insects, buzzes with the unseen wings of birds, and reverberates with the deep, throaty calls of creatures you can only imagine. This isn't your local park, friends. This is the lungs of the planet, an ecosystem so ancient and complex it makes a supercomputer look like an abacus. You trudge forward, or rather, you float along on the river, the only real highways in this sprawling, verdant labyrinth. The river itself, the Amazon, is less a river and more an inland sea, so wide in places you can barely see the opposite bank. It's churning, muddy waters hiding secrets centuries deep. You quickly realize that any sense of scale you brought with you from the concrete jungle is useless here. This place dwarfs continents. It spans 9 countries. Remember that. Primarily Brazil, but also Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. Imagine packing all of Western Europe into a single, overgrown, intensely sweaty garden. That's the Amazon for you. Give or take a few million square miles. It's been here a while, too. Long, long before humans decided to walk upright or invent TikTok. Geologists tell us the Amazon River basin, in its current form, is a relatively young feature. But the asterisk forest asterisk itself, its roots, its very essence, stretches back tens of millions of years. It witnessed the dinosaurs, if you can believe it. Not quite the same species of trees, of course, but the fundamental conditions, the heat, the rain, the incredible biodiversity, have been simmering and evolving for eons. It's a slow, relentless process, like a giant, green, geological clock ticking away, one raindrop at a time. The Andes Mountains, those majestic peaks that stand sentinel to the west, are actually the younger sibling in this family. Their dramatic uplift, some 10 to 15 million years ago, effectively reshaped the flow of ancient rivers, trapping water, creating vast inland lakes, and eventually coaxing the Amazon to flow eastward, carving its current path to the Atlantic. Before that, historians and geologists still debate whether the Proto-Amazon flowed westward, emptying into the Pacific, or perhaps formed a series of massive inland lakes. Either way, this river has seen some things, and in this ancient, green world, life exploded. You look around, and every square inch is teeming. There are more species of plants and animals here than almost anywhere else on Earth. We're talking millions, many still undiscovered, many others vanishing before we even know they exist. You hear a rustle in the leaves. Could be a tiny, iridescent frog, or maybe a jaguar stretching after a nap. Probably the frog. Let's be honest. The air shimmers with the beating wings of iridescent butterflies, each one a fleeting jewel. You see trees towering over you, so tall their crowns disappear into the misty canopy, their trunks draped in vines that hang like giant, green ropes. These aren't just individual trees. They're entire ecosystems supporting hundreds of other species. From orchids to epiphytes to the monkeys that swing through their branches, squabbling over ripe fruit. It's a riot of life, an overwhelming abundance that almost feels aggressive in its vitality. Now, you might think a place this wild, this untamed, must have been untouched by human hands for most of its history. That is certainly the image that Hollywood and adventure novels have given us. The pristine wilderness, the last frontier. But here's where we throw a little historical curveball into your sleepy journey. Because the truth is, humans have been shaping the Amazon, living asterisk with asterisk it, for a very, very long time. Imagine tens of thousands of years ago, perhaps as far back as 13,000 years ago. Small groups of intrepid hunter-gatherers, the very first Amazonians, began to filter into this verdant world. They likely migrated from the north, following game, adapting to new landscapes, or maybe even hugging the coastlines before venturing inland. Historians still argue whether the earliest migrations were a single wave or multiple pulses, or if they came down the coast or directly through the heart of the continent. But one thing is certain, they didn't just survive here, they thrived. They learned to read the forest like an open book, discerning edible plants from poisonous ones, understanding the habits of animals, mastering the subtle rhythms of the river and the seasons. They developed an encyclopedic knowledge of botany and zoology that would put any modern scientist to shame. No Google Maps for them, just generations of accumulated wisdom passed down by word of mouth, by ritual, by observation. You can almost hear their quiet movements through the undergrowth, their hushed whispers, their footsteps long erased by the relentless, all-consuming growth of the jungle. Fast forward a few millennia, and something truly remarkable starts to happen. These early Amazonians weren't just passing through. They were putting down roots, both literally and figuratively. They began to transform parts of this supposedly untamed wilderness into highly productive, sustainable landscapes. And the most famous testament to their ingenuity is something called *terra praeter*, or dark earth. You might stumble across it even today in certain parts of the Amazon, patches of unusually rich, black soil that stand in stark contrast to the typically poor, reddish soil of the surrounding jungle. Now, this isn't naturally occurring soil, not in that quantity anyway. This *terra praeter* is a human-made marvel. Imagine these ancient peoples systematically enriching their soil over centuries, even millennia, by mixing charcoal, bone, pottery shards, and organic waste into the earth. It's like the ultimate ancient compost pile, scaled up to monumental proportions. And it works. It retains nutrients, supports better drainage, and stays fertile for hundreds, even thousands of years, regenerating itself. Scientists are still trying to fully understand how they did it, and more importantly, how to replicate it today without, burning down huge swathes of forest to make charcoal. It's a testament to a sustainable agricultural practice that makes modern intensive farming look incredibly short-sighted. The discovery of *terra praeter* completely reshaped our understanding of pre-Columbian Amazonia. It hinted at something far more complex than simple nomadic tribes. It suggested large, stable populations capable of sophisticated land management, and indeed, archaeological evidence, especially with the help of new technologies like LIDAR, which can pierce through the dense canopy to map ancient structures on the forest floor, is revealing just how wrong our old assumptions were. Imagine, beneath your feet, perhaps, lie the buried remains of entire cities, not just small villages, but complex urban centers, complete with plazas, defensive earthworks, vast agricultural fields, and intricate road networks. Take, for instance, the Marajora culture, which flourished on Marayo Island at the mouth of the Amazon. They built impressive earthen mounds and created stunningly complex pottery around 400 to 1600 AD. Or consider the recent discoveries in the Xing'u River Basin, revealing a vast network of interconnected towns, villages, and road-like pathways, some of which were clearly designed with astronomical alignments in mind. Historians still debate the exact populations of these ancient Amazonian cities, but estimates range from hundreds of thousands to even millions of people living in and around the rainforest before European contact. It was a thriving, bustling world, utterly unlike the empty wilderness narrative that would later dominate. Now, imagine sailing up that vast, muddy river, just as the first Europeans did. You are a Spanish conquistador, let's say Francisco de Orellana, in 1541. You've just broken off from a disastrous expedition led by Gonzalo Pizarro, brother of the infamous Francisco Pizarro, and you're desperately searching for food, for gold, for anything that will keep you and your starving crew alive. As you drift downriver, what do you expect to find? Perhaps a few scattered huts, primitive tribes. What you actually encounter blows your mind. Orellana's account, controversial as it remains, describes a landscape teeming with life. He writes of densely populated riverbanks, cities stretching for miles, thriving agricultural fields, and powerful indigenous nations who fiercely defended their territories. He even famously reported encounters with formidable female warriors, which is where the river got its name, after the mythical Amazons of Greek legend. Whether these were actual female warriors or a misinterpretation of long-haired male warriors, or perhaps even a deliberate exaggeration to make his journey seem more heroic, scholars still debate. But what is undeniable is that his descriptions painted a picture of a vastly different Amazon than the one later Europeans would encounter. This wasn't an empty wilderness. It was a vibrant, complex civilization. So, what happened? How did this thriving, populated Amazon become the empty jungle that later European explorers saw? The answer, as is so often the case in colonial history, is devastatingly simple: disease. The Europeans brought with them a silent, invisible army of pathogens: smallpox, measles, influenza, and more, against which the indigenous populations had no immunity. These diseases swept through the Amazonian communities like wildfire, decimating populations on an unimaginable scale. Imagine 90%, perhaps even 95%, of the population vanishing within a few decades. Entire cities emptied, complex social structures collapsed, agricultural lands were abandoned and swiftly reclaimed by the relentless jungle. The forest, in its tireless way, swallowed up the evidence, leaving behind only the asterisk terra preta asterisk and the faint outlines of earthworks for future archaeologists to uncover. Centuries passed. The empty Amazon became a land of myth and mystery, a place of dangerous beasts and uncharted territories. The focus of European interest shifted, first to gold and silver in the Andes, then to timber and other natural resources. But the Amazon always held a certain allure, a promise of unimaginable riches hidden beneath its dense canopy. And then, in the mid-19th century, that promise finally materialized, not in glittering gold, but in a sticky, milky white sap, rubber. You feel the shift in the air, the subtle change from ancient whispers to the clamor of industry. The demand for rubber was soaring, driven by the Industrial Revolution in Europe and North America. Tires for bicycles, then automobiles, industrial machinery, waterproof clothing. Suddenly, the world needed rubber, and the Amazon, specifically the asterisk heavier Bracelensis asterisk tree, was the sole natural source. Imagine the feverish excitement, the mad dash, as people poured into the Amazon from all corners of the globe. European entrepreneurs, Brazilian adventurers, indigenous peoples coerced or enslaved. Cities like Manaus, deep in the heart of the Brazilian Amazon, exploded in size and wealth. You can almost hear the grand opera arias echoing from the famous Amazonas Theatre, built in Manaus in 1896, with materials imported from Europe: Italian marble, French glass, Scottish iron. It was a monument to newfound wealth, an absurdly opulent oasis in the middle of the jungle, dripping with the sweat and blood of the rubber tappers. They even imported Parisian lampposts and electric streetcars. Talk about bringing culture to the edge of the known world. Uara asterisk Serengero asterisk, a rubber tapper. During this era, your days are long, arduous, and dangerous. You wake before dawn, equipped with a simple knife and a small cup. You trek deep into the forest, following narrow trails, cutting shallow incisions into the bark of heavier trees, allowing the latex sap to ooze out and collect in your cup. It's back-breaking work, plagued by mosquitoes, venomous snakes, and the constant threat of disease. The pay is meager, often paid in company scrip, trapping you in a cycle of debt. The vast wealth generated by rubber didn't trickle down to the workers. It flowed into the pockets of the rubber barons and European industrialists, making men like Brazil's Burrão de Rio Branco fabulously rich. This was the era of red gold, so named because it was stained with the blood of the workers. Indigenous populations, who had survived centuries of disease, were now subjected to brutal exploitation, forced labor, and violence on a scale that makes your stomach churn. It is during this time that you might even glimpse the bizarre spectacle of Henry Ford's attempt to create his own rubber empire deep in the Brazilian Amazon. He bought a massive tract of land, nearly 2.5 million acres, in the 1920s. Envisioning a utopian company town, Fordlandia, he wanted to control the entire supply chain, from tree to tire. But Ford, with his rigid, Detroit-centric mindset, completely misjudged the Amazon. He tried to impose American work hours, American food soybeans, and canned peaches, anyone, and American puritanical morality on local workers. He planted rubber trees too densely, making them vulnerable to disease, and ignored local expertise. The project was a spectacular, very expensive failure, a testament to the Amazon's stubborn refusal to be tamed by foreign industrial might. The jungle, as it always does, eventually reclaimed most of it. The rubber boom, like all booms, eventually burst. The seeds of the heavier Bracelensis tree, illegally smuggled out of Brazil by the British in the late 19th century, were successfully cultivated in vast, efficient plantations in Southeast Asia. The Amazon's monopoly was shattered, and the region, which had experienced an artificial, feverish prosperity, plunged back into relative obscurity. Manaus, once the jewel of the jungle, saw its grand opera house fall silent for decades. A beautiful, decaying monument to a bygone era. But the legacy of the rubber boom, and indeed, all the subsequent waves of exploitation, logging, mining, cattle ranching, soybean plantations, left an indelible mark. It began a process of systematic deforestation and resource extraction that continues to this day. The red gold of rubber gave way to the green gold of timber, the black gold of oil, and the yellow gold of minerals, each bringing its own waves of outsiders, its own patterns of exploitation, and its own devastating impact on the forest and its remaining indigenous peoples. Remember those ancient cities we talked about, the ones that once thrived here. Their descendants are still fighting, still struggling to protect their ancestral lands, their cultures, and this incredible, irreplaceable forest that they call home. As the modern world encroaches ever closer, as the modern world encroaches ever closer, and encroach it does, with the relentless churn of bulldozers and the hungry glint of chainsaws. You can almost hear them, even now, in the distant hum of your fan if you listen closely enough. The jungle, once an impenetrable fortress, now has roads, dirt tracks really, slicing through its heart like fresh wounds. These are the arteries of destruction, allowing access for all the forces that seek to exploit the Amazon's remaining riches. The red gold of rubber was just the beginning. Today, the Amazon faces a hydra-headed monster of threats, each one gnawing away at its immense, vibrant body. Perhaps the biggest culprit, if we're being honest with ourselves, is often the humble hamburger or the chicken on your plate. Vast, almost unimaginable swathes of rainforest are cleared every single day, not for human settlement in the traditional sense, but for cattle ranching. Imagine, where once stood towering trees, now there are immense, ecologically barren pastures, dotted with grazing cows. It's a stark, almost absurd transformation. The Brazilian beef industry, a major global player, fuels this relentless expansion, turning ancient forest into temporary, often unsustainable, grazing land. And if it's not cows directly, it's soy, not necessarily for your tofu, unless you're an avid consumer of organic, ethically sourced soy products, but overwhelmingly for animal feed. That's right. Millions of acres of Amazonian forest are also sacrificed to grow soybeans that will feed livestock, pigs in China, chickens in Europe, cattle wherever they might be. It's an intricate, often hidden, global food chain where your dinner plate can have a direct, devastating impact on the planet's largest rainforest. So, next time you bite into that steak or chicken nugget, consider the ecological footprint it left behind, stretching all the way back to the Amazon. It's a sobering thought for a bedtime story, I know, but sometimes the truth bites harder than any Amazonian insect. Then there's the green gold again, timber. Not the regulated, sustainable kind, mind you, which is a rare and often elusive beast in these parts, but the illicit kind. Gangs of illegal loggers, often armed, often connected to organized crime, hack their way through protected areas and indigenous territories. They target precious hardwoods, mahogany, ipa, cedar, trees that have stood for centuries. Their rings holding silent records of the Amazon's history. Imagine the sound of a giant tree, hundreds of years old, its root system entwined with countless others, crashing to the ground. A deafening crack that reverberates through the forest, followed by an eerie, heavy silence. Then the mechanical whine of chainsaws sectioning it up. A silence that is a permanent void where life once thrived. A gaping hole in the intricate tapestry of the canopy. The logs are then floated downriver or trucked out on clandestine roads, eventually finding their way into furniture, flooring, or even musical instruments, often passing through complex, shadowy supply chains that obscure their illegal origins. And what about the glitter of minerals? Gold, iron ore, bauxite, tantalite. The Amazon basin is rich in them, a geological treasure trove. And where there are riches, there are miners, often small-scale, unregulated operations, a motley crew of prospectors, using mercury to separate gold from ore, poisoning rivers and land alike, turning once pristine waterways into murky, toxic sludge. You can practically taste the metallic tang in the air. Or there are massive corporate ventures, clear-cutting vast areas, displacing communities, and leaving behind moonscapes of excavated earth. The Amazon, in its generosity, has become its own undoing, its subterranean wealth luring those who would plunder it. Then there are the dams, hydroelectric power, clean energy, right? Sounds good on paper, a modern solution to energy demands. But these mega dams, like the controversial Belo Monte Dam on the Xingu River, flood immense tracts of forest, creating vast, stagnant reservoirs. They displace entire communities, particularly indigenous peoples whose homes and ancestral lands are submerged. They fundamentally alter the river's delicate ecosystem, impacting everything from fish migration to the very nutrient cycle of the basin, often starving the downstream floodplains that rely on seasonal inundation for their fertility. The promise of cheap electricity often comes with an unspeakably high environmental and social price, a trade-off that is hotly debated, often with very real consequences for those whose lives are uprooted. And amidst all this, imagine, there are still people living in the Amazon who have never had contact with the outside world. Think about that for a second. Entire communities whose ancestors have lived in these forests for millennia, whose knowledge of the jungle is unparalleled, who exist outside our globalized, internet-obsessed reality. They choose isolation, often as a survival strategy, having witnessed the devastating impact of previous contacts, the diseases, the violence, the loss of land and culture. They are among the most vulnerable populations on Earth, threatened by every new road, every illegal logging camp, every encroaching farm. Their very existence is a testament to the Amazon's enduring wildness, and their continued survival hangs by the thinnest of threads, a silent, powerful argument for preservation. Protecting their right to self-determination and isolation is one of the most complex and ethically fraught challenges facing conservationists today. It's a race against time as the frontier pushes closer to these last pockets of true wilderness. This isn't just a regional issue either, tucked away in some far-off corner of the globe. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the planet for a reason. It absorbs massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, acting as a crucial carbon sink, helping regulate global climate patterns. It generates its own rain, too, creating incredible atmospheric rivers, colossal currents of moisture that evaporate from the forest, rise into the atmosphere, and then fall as rain across vast distances, influencing weather patterns not just across South America, but potentially as far away as the United States and even Africa. When you clear vast areas of it, you're not just destroying trees, you're disrupting these colossal, global systems. You're releasing stored carbon into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change. You're altering rainfall patterns, potentially turning once lush areas into dry savannas, making them even more susceptible to fire. It's a terrifying feedback loop, a slow-motion catastrophe playing out in real time, often exacerbated by a warming planet that makes the Amazon more prone to drought and devastating fires. You can practically feel the air growing warmer, drier, as the forest shrinks. But the story isn't just one of destruction and despair. It's also a story of incredible resilience, of fierce resistance. The indigenous peoples of the Amazon, the descendants of those ancient city builders, are on the front lines of this fight. They are the forest's most ardent protectors, often literally risking their lives to defend their ancestral lands against invaders. You hear their voices, sometimes amplified on the world stage, sometimes quiet whispers of defiance in the depth of the jungle. Leaders like Raoni Metuktaya of the Kayapo people, whose distinctive large lip plate is almost as iconic as his unwavering commitment to his people, and the forest, have traveled the world, pleading for recognition, for protection. He's met with popes and presidents, with movie stars and activists, a living symbol of an ancient culture fighting for its future. They argue, rightly, that the best way to protect the Amazon is to empower the people who have lived in harmony with it. For millennia, their traditional ecological knowledge, their deep spiritual connection to the land, their understanding of the forest's delicate balance are invaluable. A living library of sustainable practices that modern science is only just beginning to appreciate. Historians and ecologists now widely agree that indigenous territories in the Amazon are often the most effective barriers against deforestation, outperforming even some national parks in their protection rates. It's a powerful argument for land rights, an acknowledgement that the oldest inhabitants are often the wisest custodians. And despite all the pressures, the Amazon continues to surprise us. Scientists, often working hand in hand with indigenous communities, are still discovering new species every single day. A new type of monkey, perhaps a tiny iridescent frog never before seen by human eyes outside its specific isolated pool of plant with potential medicinal properties that could revolutionize pharmacology, or a previously unknown insect with a bizarre life cycle. It's a constant reminder of the incredible biodiversity that still exists, a desperate plea to protect what remains. The forest holds secrets we can't even begin to imagine, cures for diseases, insights into life itself, waiting to be understood before they vanish forever. Imagine what ancient knowledge about these plants has already been lost, or what new discoveries are being wiped out before they are even catalogued. The irony is not lost on anyone that the very act of studying these remote areas sometimes exposes them to the very threats they are trying to understand and protect. The sheer scale of the Amazon's biodiversity is almost mind-boggling. 1 square kilometer of Amazon rainforest can contain more species of trees than all of North America. One study found more species of ants on a single tree in Peru than in all of the British Isles. The rivers alone are home to an estimated 2,500 to 3,000 species of fish, more than the entire Atlantic Ocean. You might encounter the pirarucu, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world, growing up to 10 feet long and weighing hundreds of pounds. An ancient leviathan swimming in the murky depths, or the electric eel, capable of delivering a shock strong enough to knock a horse down, making your hair stand on end just thinking about it. And, of course, the infamous piranha, though often more interested in scavenged carrion than Hollywood-style human attacks, usually. But you still wouldn't want to go for a casual dip with a fresh cut. Just saying. This vibrant, sometimes terrifying, always astonishing web of life is what makes the Amazon truly unique. The future of the Amazon, then, is not just a question of ecology, but of economics, politics, and human rights. It's a complex tapestry woven with threads of global demand for resources, national development aspiration, and the survival of ancient cultures. The delicate balance is constantly shifting, influenced by commodity prices, government policies, and the tireless efforts of activists and indigenous leaders. There is a constant tension between those who see the forest as a resource to be extracted and those who see it as a sacred entity, a global heritage to be preserved. You can almost feel the conflicting pressures pulling at the air, creating a palpable tension beneath the humid canopy. The Amazon, then, is not just a place on a map. It's a living, breathing entity, a crucible of life and conflict. Its fate, intertwined with our own, hangs in a delicate balance. As you drift off to sleep, let the sounds of the jungle, both ancient and modern, reverberate in your mind. The insistent hum of insects, the distant, guttural roar of a jaguar, the rhythmic drip of moisture from the leaves, the relentless buzz of a chainsaw, the quiet resolve of a people fighting for their home. The story of the Amazon, like the forest itself, is still being written, one drop of rain, one felled tree, one act of resistance at a time. And the next chapter, friends, depends entirely on what we, collectively, decide to do about this magnificent, vital, and increasingly fragile wonder of the world. It's a story far from over, a wilderness still whispering its ancient secrets. Even as the modern world clamors at its edges, waiting for the next turning point, the jungle never sleeps, and neither, it seems, does the struggle for its survival. This continuous struggle isn't just for the sake of a few pretty trees or cute monkeys, although, let's be honest, who doesn't love a capybara? It's about something far more fundamental. Imagine, if you will, the Amazon as a gargantuan, complex biological supercomputer, performing calculations we don't even fully understand. It's regulating rainfall, cycling nutrients, storing carbon, and housing an unimaginable library of life. And we, with our chainsaws and bulldozers, are ripping out its hard drives, unplugging its power cords, and generally treating it like a disposable piece of tech. You drift, metaphorically, over the immense green expanse, seeing the scars from above, the brown gashes of cleared land, the faint lines of new roads snaking into untouched territory, the glint of sun off a newly built dam's reservoir. It's a landscape of breathtaking beauty marred by increasingly brutal human interventions. And the scientists, the climate models, they're whispering about something truly terrifying, a tipping point. It's not just a buzzword, it's a terrifying ecological threshold. Imagine a massive, delicate seesaw. On one side, the resilience of the forest, on the other, the relentless pressure of human activity. If too much of the Amazon is destroyed, if too much of its intricate hydrological cycle is disrupted, it could flip, not gradually, but suddenly. Large parts of the rainforest, particularly the southern and eastern regions, could transform into a dry, savanna-like landscape incapable of regenerating, triggering a catastrophic domino effect on global climate and biodiversity. The very air you breathe, the rain that falls thousands of miles away, could change irrevocably. It's the kind of scenario that makes even the most cynical climate scientist lose sleep. You feel a ripple beneath your phantom canoe as we revisit the mighty rivers. These colossal veins carrying the lifeblood of the Amazon. They are magnificent, yes, but they are also increasingly vulnerable. Historically, they were the very essence of life here, providing food, transport, and spiritual connection for indigenous peoples. Now, they are often choked with sediment from mining operations, contaminated with mercury, or fragmented by dams. Imagine a fish, a species that has migrated upstream for millennia to spawn, suddenly encountering a colossal concrete wall. Its ancient journey ends there, its life cycle broken. And what about the river dolphins, those strangely beautiful, pink creatures, or the giant otters? Their habitats are shrinking, their food sources dwindling, their very survival hanging by a thread. The river, once a giver of life, becomes a conduit for destruction. The illegal gold mining operations, for instance, are particularly egregious. You can almost see the makeshift camps along the riverbanks, the muddy churn of dredges, the smoke of fires, the desperate faces of workers drawn by the promise of quick riches. They use mercury. Remember, it's cheap, effective, and devastatingly toxic. It binds with the gold particles, allowing them to be separated. Then it's burned off, releasing poisonous vapors into the air and liquid mercury into the water. This heavy metal then enters the food chain. Fish absorb it, then the people who eat the fish, leading to neurological damage, birth defects, and irreversible health problems. It's an invisible killer, seeping into the very fabric of the ecosystem, tainting everything it touches for generations. And it's not just small-scale miners, large, organized criminal syndicates often back these operations, providing equipment and protection, making the fight against them a dangerous, often deadly, endeavor for environmental agents and indigenous guardians. Then there are the roads. Always the roads. They might seem like progress, connecting remote communities, allowing trade. But in the Amazon, a road is rarely just a road. It's an invitation, a breach in the fortress. Once a road is built, even an illegal one, it opens the door for loggers to extract timber from previously inaccessible areas, for ranchers to expand their pastures, for miners to set up shop, and for land speculators to claim vast tracts of forest, often with forged documents. Think of it like a viral infection. The road is the initial point of entry, and from there, the disease of deforestation spreads rapidly into the surrounding healthy tissue. It's a relentless, creeping advance, pushing the frontier of human exploitation deeper and deeper into the wilderness. But let's pause the doom and gloom for a moment. Because despite the overwhelming challenges, the Amazon isn't just a victim. It's also a battleground of innovation, a laboratory for resilience, and a testament to human determination. You shift your gaze from the scars of destruction to the vibrant pockets of resistance and hope. The indigenous peoples, those ancient custodians, are at the forefront. Their knowledge, accumulated over millennia, is priceless. They understand the intricate connections within the ecosystem in a way Western science is only beginning to grasp. They know which plants cure which ailments, which animals are active at which times, how to sustainably harvest the forest's bounty without depleting it. It's not just folklore. It's a sophisticated, empirical system of ecological wisdom. when you hear about new medicines derived from Amazonian plants. Chances are the initial discovery came from an indigenous healer, and increasingly, modern science is recognizing this, working in partnership with communities to document and protect this invaluable ethnobotanical heritage, often in a desperate race against the destruction of both the plants and the people who know them. Imagine a group of indigenous guardians, armed not with guns, but with GPS devices and satellite phones, patrolling their ancestral lands. They're using modern technology to fight modern threats. Satellite imagery, which can detect deforestation almost in real time, is now accessible to remote communities through cheap smartphones and dedicated apps. They can pinpoint illegal logging operations, report them to authorities, and even document environmental crimes themselves. It's a digital shield, a new layer of defense for a people who have always defended their land with their lives. Drones buzz silently over the canopy, providing aerial surveillance, capturing evidence that can be used in court. It's a fascinating, empowering confluence of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge technology, demonstrating that the best way to protect the future is often by empowering those who have always lived closest to the land. And the world is starting to listen, albeit slowly and imperfectly. There's growing international pressure on Amazonian nations to protect their forests. Consumers in Europe and North America are increasingly demanding sustainably sourced products, boycotting beef or soy linked to deforestation. Investment funds are divesting from companies with poor environmental records. It's not a perfect system, and it's often fraught with greenwashing and political maneuvering. But the conversation is changing. There are initiatives for carbon credits, where richer nations pay Amazonian countries to keep their forests standing, essentially recognizing the global service the rainforest provides. Historians will look back at this period and debate whether humanity woke up in time, whether the economic incentives were strong enough to counter the forces of destruction. It's a complex dance between profit, politics, and planetary survival. You might even encounter the nascent, but growing, sustainable industries emerging from the Amazon. Beyond the rubber boom and the fleeting gold rush, people are realizing the true, long-term wealth of the forest lies in its standing trees, in its biodiversity. Think of acai berries, now a global superfood, providing income for communities that harvest them sustainably from the forest. Or Brazil nuts, another forest product that thrives in intact ecosystems. There are opportunities for sustainable timber harvesting that prioritizes selective logging and replanting, although these are vastly overshadowed by the illegal industry. Ecotourism, when done responsibly, can provide economic alternatives that value the forest alive rather than dead. It's a difficult pivot, requiring investment, education, and political will, but it represents a pathway to a future where the Amazon can be both prosperous and preserved. But the sheer scale of the Amazon is hard to grasp, even for those who live and work there. It's not just one forest. It's a mosaic of countless microclimates, unique ecosystems, and diverse cultures. You could spend a lifetime exploring just a tiny fraction of it and still feel like you've barely scratched the surface. Imagine standing on a tree observation tower, hundreds of feet above the forest floor. The canopy stretching out before you like an endless, green ocean humming with invisible life. You see macaws flying in brilliant flashes of color against the vast blue sky. Hear the distant, haunting cry of a howler monkey. Feel the warm, damp air caress your skin. It's a feeling of awe, of insignificance, of being connected to something infinitely larger and older than yourself. And in this vastness, scientific expeditions are constantly pushing the boundaries of discovery. Imagine scientists rappelling down a giant kapok tree, their eyes peeled for new insect species, or biologists wading through a murky stream, collecting samples of aquatic life, hoping to find a fish never before catalogued. The number of undiscovered species here is staggering. Every new plant could hold a key to a new medicine. Every new insect could unlock a secret of evolution. Every new microbe could be a missing piece of the puzzle of life on Earth. The Amazon is a living laboratory, an unparalleled biological repository, offering insights into how life adapts, evolves, and thrives in complex systems. But these discoveries often come with a poignant undertone. Will this species survive long enough for us to truly understand it? Will this ancient plant knowledge be lost before its properties are fully appreciated? The ethical considerations are immense. How do you conduct research without inadvertently disrupting the very ecosystems you seek to study? How do you share knowledge without exploiting indigenous communities? How do you protect unique species without revealing their location to poachers or illegal collectors? It's a constant tightrope walk, requiring sensitivity, respect, and a long-term commitment to the people and the place. You might think of the Amazon as simply a wilderness, but it's a wilderness profoundly shaped by human hands and still home to millions of people. Beyond the indigenous tribes, there are riverine communities, riberenhos, traditional rubber tappers, small-scale farmers, and urban dwellers in cities like Manaus and Belém. Their lives are intimately tied to the forest, often depending on its resources for their survival. Development in the Amazon, therefore, isn't just about protecting trees. It's about finding ways for these diverse populations to live dignified lives, to have access to education, health care, and economic opportunity without resorting to destructive practices. It's about land reform, about fair prices for sustainable products, about empowering local governance, and about dismantling the powerful, often corrupt, forces that profit from destruction. The geopolitical landscape is as tangled as the Amazonian vines. 9 countries, each with its own sovereignty, its own economic pressures, its own political agendas. Brazil holds the largest share, making its policies profoundly influential. But what happens in Peru or Colombia or Ecuador also has ripple effects. International agreements, funding initiatives, and diplomatic pressures ebb and flow like the river's tides, sometimes bringing hope, sometimes disappointment. There are heated debates about who has the right to exploit the Amazon's resources, who bears the responsibility for its protection, and who should pay for it. Developing nations argue they have the right to use their natural resources, to uplift their populations, just as developed nations did during their industrial revolutions. Developed nations counter that the Amazon is a global common good, its preservation vital for the entire planet. It's a diplomatic quagmire, full of finger-pointing and complex negotiations, making the simple act of preserving a tree incredibly complicated. And yet, Despite all this complexity, all this destruction, the Amazon endures. It's a testament to its immense scale and the incredible tenacity of life. You can still find vast, untouched swathes, places where no human has ever set foot, where the ancient pulse of the forest beats undisturbed. These are the reservoirs of biodiversity, the last refuges for countless species, the living proof of what once was and what could still be. They are the hope. Think of the amazing adaptations life has made here. Sloths, moving so slowly that algae grows on their fur, providing camouflage. Frogs whose skin secretes potent toxins. Insects that mimic leaves or sticks or even other, more dangerous insects. Plants that communicate through underground fungal networks, sharing nutrients and warnings. The Amazon is a masterclass in evolution, a living textbook of interconnectedness and interdependence. Every creature, every plant plays a role, no matter how small, in the grand symphony of the ecosystem. It's a reminder of the staggering ingenuity of nature, far surpassing anything humanity has yet devised. The future of the Amazon isn't just a grim prognosis of decline. It's also a story of a global movement, of countless individuals, communities, and organizations fighting fiercely for its survival. It's the story of a young indigenous activist finding her voice on the world stage, of a researcher braving the jungle for years to document a single species, of a small village successfully defending its land against illegal miners. It's a story of resilience written in every new leaf, in every returning animal, in every successful reforestation project. As your sleepy journey continues, let these images settle in your mind. The immense, sprawling beauty, the intricate web of life, the brutal scars of exploitation, and the unwavering spirit of those who fight for its future. The Amazon whispers, sometimes with the gentle rustle of leaves, sometimes with the urgent roar of a threatened jaguar, sometimes with the quiet resolve of an indigenous elder. It's telling us its story, a story of an ancient world colliding with a rapidly changing one. A story whose ending is still unwritten. You are floating now, perhaps, on a calm tributary, the air cool and heavy with the scent of night-blooming flowers. The sounds of the jungle become less distinct, blurring into a continuous hum, a lullaby of life. You feel the immense presence of the forest all round you, a giant, living blanket pulled over the world. It breathes in, drawing carbon dioxide, exhaling oxygen, an immense, slow breath that sustains us all. It rains, generating moisture that travels on atmospheric rivers, sustaining life far beyond its borders. It shelters ancient wisdom and undreamed of future cures. The struggle for its survival is relentless, a continuous cycle of push and pull, destruction and defense. There will be good years and bad years. There will be political victories and heartbreaking losses. But the forest itself, in its vastness and tenacity, remains. It has witnessed eons, survived ice ages and meteor impacts, seen species rise and fall. It is ancient, patient, and incredibly resilient. The question is not whether the Amazon can survive, but whether we will let it. Whether we will understand its value before it's too late. Whether we will choose the short-term gain of a few commodities over the long-term health of the planet and the survival of a truly irreplaceable wonder. So as you drift deeper into sleep, perhaps you'll dream of jaguars padding silently through the undergrowth of iridescent butterflies fluttering through sun-dappled clearings, of the deep, powerful flow of the Amazon River carrying stories from ancient times to the present. Dream of the quiet strength of the trees, standing sentinel for centuries. Dream of a future where the Amazon breathes freely, abundantly, a thriving testament to life itself. The narrative of this magnificent forest, far from being over, is merely turning another page, and the ink is still wet on the future. The story, like the river, flows on, winding through untouched wilderness and scarred landscapes, carrying the whispers of the past into the promise of tomorrow. And with every passing moment, every conscious breath you take, the Amazon is still there, waiting for the next sunrise, for the next decision, for the next chapter to unfold. It waits, silent and grand, for us to write its future. It waits, silent and grand, for us to write its future. And that future, my friends, is looking a bit parched in places. Because beyond the immediate, brutal impacts of chainsaws and dredges, there's another, more insidious threat creeping across the Amazon: climate change. Not just as a consequence of deforestation, but as an independent, terrifying force. You might feel a strange shift in the air, a subtle, almost imperceptible drying. That humid embrace, that thick, verdant breath, begins to thin in certain areas. Droughts, once rare and localized, are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more widespread. Imagine an ecosystem that has evolved for millennia to thrive in constant, overwhelming moisture, suddenly starved of water for months on end. Trees that typically keep their leaves year-round begin to drop them, turning what should be an evergreen paradise into a brittle, flammable tinderbox. And then comes the fire. Not the controlled burns of traditional agriculture, but vast, uncontrolled infernos. Sometimes started by lightning, more often by human hands, escaping agricultural clearing or deliberately set to clear land. You can almost see the orange glow on the horizon, smell the acrid smoke, feel the heat radiating across miles. These aren't just forest fires, they're ecological catastrophes. The smoke chokes cities hundreds of miles away, turning day into a perpetual twilight. The fires burn hotter, deeper, destroying not just the trees, but the very soil, turning millennia of accumulated organic matter into ash and dust. And once a patch of rainforest burns, it rarely recovers as true rainforest. Instead, it often regrows as a degraded, more open forest, or simply turns into savanna, less complex, less biodiverse, and far less capable of absorbing carbon. This process, often called savannization, is one of the Amazon's most terrifying potential tipping points. Remember those atmospheric rivers we talked about? Those colossal currents of moisture evaporated from the forest and carried across the continent. Well, when you burn or cut down vast swathes of trees, you're not just losing individual organisms, you're literally disrupting the planet's largest, most complex rainmaking machine. Less forest means less evapotranspiration, which means fewer clouds, less rain, and a drier, hotter Amazon. It's a vicious feedback loop, a death spiral where deforestation exacerbates drought, which exacerbates fire, which leads to more deforestation. It's Mother Nature's equivalent of an endless loop on YouTube, but way less entertaining and with much higher stakes. And what about the unseen? While we often focus on the iconic jaguars and colorful macaws, the Amazon is also a bustling metropolis of microscopic life. Beneath your feet, within the soil, and on every leaf, there are billions upon billions of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other microorganisms silently performing the planet's most vital work. They're breaking down organic matter, cycling nutrients, helping plants absorb water, and even influencing cloud formation. This isn't just dirt. It's a hyperactive, living superorganism. Scientists are only just beginning to truly grasp the complexity of this subterranean and microscopic world, often referring to the vast underground networks of fungi as the Wood Wide Web, a communication and nutrient-sharing network that makes our internet look like a pair of tin cans and a string. Imagine the unknown species, the unique metabolic pathways, the potential medical breakthroughs hiding in these microbial communities, vanishing with every felled tree, every poisoned river. It's like setting fire to the Library of Alexandria, but a biological one. And we don't even have the catalogue. This brings us to the tantalizing, ethically fraught world of bioprospecting. What if the cure for Alzheimer's, or a revolutionary new antibiotic, or a super-efficient biofuel is sitting in the sap of an Amazonian vine, known only to an elder from an isolated tribe? The Amazon is often called the world's largest natural pharmacy, and for good reason. Indigenous peoples have used its plants for millennia to treat everything from snake bites to fevers, often with astonishing effectiveness. Their traditional knowledge is a living database passed down through generations. But here's where it gets sticky, like the latex from a rubber tree. In the past, pharmaceutical companies and researchers would often sweep into the Amazon, collect samples, identify active compounds, patent them, and then make billions, all without acknowledging or compensating the indigenous communities whose knowledge led to the discovery. It's essentially biopiracy. So, while the potential for medical breakthroughs is immense, the ethical questions are equally vast. Who owns the knowledge? Who benefits from the profits? How do you ensure that these communities, the original guardians of this biological library, are justly compensated and empowered rather than exploited? International agreements, like the Nagoya Protocol, attempt to address these issues, aiming for fair and equitable sharing of benefits. But enforcement in remote, often lawless areas remains a monumental challenge. It is a bit like trying to collect royalties on a song after the band broke up, and the master tapes were lost in a flood. You might glance down at the water again if you're still metaphorically floating. It's not just the pirarucu and piranha that call these waters home. There are the strange, almost alien-looking kandiru, tiny parasitic catfish. That are the stuff of local nightmares. Don't Google them right before bed. Trust me. Or the majestic Victoria Amazonica water lily, with leaves strong enough to support the weight of a small child. A truly spectacular botanical marvel that floats like a giant green pizza on the calm waters of Oxbow Lakes. And then there are the caimans, cousins of alligators, lurking just below the surface. their eyes like twin embers in the dark, their presence a reminder that even in its tranquil moments, the Amazon is utterly, ferociously wild. You might hear their deep, guttural bellows carried on the night air, a sound that rattles your chest and reminds you that you are very much not at the top of the food chain here. The Amazon's resilience is also due to its incredible biodiversity, yes, but also its mind-boggling complexity. Think about the insects. There are more species of insects in a single square mile of Amazonian forest than in all of Europe. Leafcutter ants, for instance, aren't just carrying leaves. They're farming fungi, building massive underground colonies that are engineering marvels, moving more earth than any other organism besides humans. They are ancient agricultural societies, microengineers, demonstrating a level of social organization and environmental modification that predates us by millions of years. This level of intricate interaction, where every tiny creature plays a part in nutrient cycling, pollination, and decomposition, is what makes the ecosystem so robust or so fragile, depending on how many pieces you remove. As you consider this vast, buzzing, humming world, you might also think about the people who navigate its complexities daily. Beyond the remote, uncontacted tribes, there are the asterisk Riberenhos asterisk, the river dwellers, whose lives are intrinsically woven into the ebb and flow of the Amazon's vast river system. They live in stilt houses to adapt to the seasonal floods, fish for their sustenance, and gather forest products. Their knowledge of the river, its currents, its fish, its seasons, is as deep as any oceanographer's, passed down through generations. They represent a blend of indigenous, European, and African heritage, forming distinct cultures adapted specifically to this unique environment. Their livelihoods are directly threatened by pollution, overfishing, and dam construction, caught between the forces of modern development and the desire to maintain their traditional way of life. And then, there are the sprawling urban centers that sit paradoxically within the Amazon. Manaus, which we touched on during the rubber boom, is a bustling metropolis of over 2 million people, complete with skyscrapers, traffic jams, and bustling markets, a stark contrast to the surrounding wilderness. Belém, at the mouth of the Amazon, is another massive port city, a gateway to the Atlantic. These cities are hubs of commerce, culture, and, yes, often the very forces that drive deforestation, industries, political power, consumption patterns. The future of the Amazon isn't just about protecting remote tribes. It is also about finding ways for these sprawling urban centers to coexist sustainably with the forest that surrounds them. You see the gleaming glass towers of Manaus, incongruous against the backdrop of an endless green horizon, and realize that the concrete jungle here is just as hungry as its arboreal counterpart. The demands of these cities for food, for energy, for building materials, for consumer goods, cast a colossal ecological shadow, pulling resources from the surrounding Amazon basin, often heedless of the environmental cost. Waste management is a nightmare. Pollution from burgeoning industries seeps into the rivers, and the sheer human population density creates pressure points that ripple outwards into the wilderness. It's a paradox. The Amazon gives life to these cities, yet these cities, in their growth, threaten to choke the very source of their existence. But step back from the bustling city streets, And let's consider another, often overlooked, aspect of the Amazon's intricate dance, the soil itself. We talked about asterisk terra preta asterisk, that ancient, human-made miracle. But what about the natural soil? Much of it is surprisingly poor, leached of nutrients by millennia of heavy rainfall. This is why the Amazon is often described as a wet desert, a place where life thrives, not asterisk because asterisk the soil is rich, but asterisk despite asterisk it. The nutrients aren't stored in the ground, they're locked up in the plants themselves, in the living biomass. When a tree falls, its nutrients are rapidly recycled by a dense network of fungi and microorganisms, immediately taken up by other plants before they can be washed away by the relentless rains. It's a closed-loop system, an incredibly efficient nutrient highway that makes a modern composting facility look like an amateur hour. This rapid recycling is one of the forest's great secrets, a biological perpetual motion machine. But it also explains why deforestation is so devastating. When you clear-cut the forest, especially for cattle ranching, you're not just removing the trees. You're destroying this delicate nutrient cycle. The sun bakes the exposed soil. The rain washes away the thin layer of topsoil, and the underlying clay hardens into something akin to concrete. Suddenly, that lush, vibrant ecosystem becomes a desolate, unproductive landscape, incapable of supporting cattle for more than a few years, before the rancher moves on to clear another patch of forest. It's a short-sighted, highly destructive cycle, proving that sometimes less asterisk is and single quotes T asterisk more, especially when it comes to biodiversity and intricate ecological systems. You might hear whispers of other, stranger creatures now, as we delve deeper into the biological marvels. Beyond the jaguars and the monkeys, the Amazon holds wonders that seem to defy imagination. Have you heard of the glass frog? Its skin is so translucent you can see its beating heart, its liver, its intestines are living. Breathing anatomy lesson right there on a leaf. Or the Jesus Christ lizard, officially the common basilisk, which can literally run across the surface of water on its hind legs, seemingly defying gravity, thanks to specialized scales on its feet and an incredible burst of speed. Imagine seeing that dart across a murky pond, a tiny, prehistoric-looking marvel. Then there are the truly bizarre, like the asterisk phallus indusiatus asterisk, or veiled lady mushroom, which emerges from the forest floor, adorned with a delicate, lacy skirt or veil. It looks like something out of a fairy tale, or perhaps a particularly avant-garde fashion show for fungi. Its beauty, however, belies a rather pungent odor designed to attract flies for spore dispersal. The Amazon, it seems, has a flair for the dramatic and a sense of humor to match. The sheer scale of the Amazonian flora is equally astounding. Beyond the towering canopy, think of the strangler fig. It begins as a tiny seed, deposited by a bird high in the branches of a host tree. It sends roots down, embracing the host, slowly enveloping it, until eventually the host tree withers and dies, leaving behind a hollow, self-supporting cylinder of strangler fig roots. It's a slow-motion, arboreal wrestling match, a testament to the relentless, competitive nature of life in the jungle. And then there are the carnivorous plants. Pitcher plants and sundews, patiently waiting for an unsuspecting insect to become their next meal. Even the plants here have a predatory glint in their, well, leaves. Let's pull back to the human story. Because the Amazon's narrative is inextricably linked with its people, we've mentioned the indigenous communities. But there are also the Quilombolas descendants of escaped enslaved Africans who formed independent communities, often deep within the forest or along its rivers. They forged new cultures, adapting African traditions to the Amazonian environment, developing unique forms of sustainable agriculture and resource management. Their existence is a powerful testament to human resilience and the enduring spirit of freedom. Often overlooked in the broader narrative of the Amazon, they, too, are fighting for land rights and recognition, for the preservation of their unique heritage against the same encroaching forces that threaten indigenous groups. The river itself is more than just water. It's a cultural highway, a living deity for many. Think of the Boto asterisk, the Amazon River dolphin, revered in local folklore as a shapeshifter who can transform into a handsome man or beautiful woman at night, seducing unsuspecting villagers. These myths, often cautionary tales or romantic legends, speak to the deep, almost mystical connection the river dwellers have with their environment. But even the Boto asterisk, once a symbol of magic, is now threatened by mercury poisoning from gold mining and entanglement in fishing nets. The magic, it seems, is struggling against the mundane horrors of modern pollution. And speaking of pollution, let's talk about plastic. Yes, even in the heart of the Amazon, the ubiquitous plastic bottle finds its way. It floats downriver, washes up on pristine beaches, chokes aquatic life. The global problem of plastic waste has no borders, and the Amazon, as one of the world's largest river systems, acts as a superhighway for this modern blight, carrying it all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, polluting coastlines, and eventually contributing to the vast ocean gyres of plastic debris. It's a stark reminder that even seemingly isolated acts of consumption, far from the rainforest, have a direct, tangible impact here. Your single-use coffee cup might just end up as microplastic in a peraruku. Just a thought. The economic drivers behind Amazonian deforestation are complex and often deeply rooted in global demand. It's not just about local ranchers. It's about global supply chains, international markets, and the intricate dance of commodity prices. When the price of beef or soy or gold goes up on the world market, the pressure on the Amazon intensifies. Governments, often strapped for cash or influenced by powerful agricultural and mining lobbies, frequently prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term environmental sustainability. This creates a challenging environment for conservationists, who often find themselves battling well-funded interests and political inertia. It's a David versus Goliath fight, except Goliath has a fleet of bulldozers and a powerful PR firm. But the story isn't entirely bleak, nor entirely a battle against corporate giants. There are the everyday heroes, the unsung champions. Think of the forest rangers, often underpaid, under-equipped, and facing incredible personal danger from illegal loggers and miners, yet bravely patrolling vast, remote areas. Or the local teachers, working in remote riverside communities, teaching children not just literacy and numeracy, but also about the importance of their forest home, its unique biodiversity, and their ancestral connection to it. Or the medical teams, navigating treacherous rivers and dense jungle to bring basic health care to isolated communities, fighting diseases that the modern world has largely forgotten. These are the quiet acts of heroism that keep hope alive, the small, persistent lights in the vast, sometimes overwhelming darkness. The challenges are immense, and solutions are rarely simple. Take the issue of enforcement. Laws might be on the books protecting indigenous lands or prohibiting illegal mining. But in remote areas, with vast distances and limited resources, enforcement is incredibly difficult. Corruption, unfortunately, is also a persistent problem, sometimes turning a blind eye to illegal activities or even actively facilitating them. It's not just a matter of good policy, it's a matter of good governance, transparency, and a genuine commitment from all levels of society. Yet, despite these hurdles, there are success stories. There are communities that have successfully defended their land, sometimes through legal battles that stretch for years, sometimes through direct, non-violent action, standing shoulder to shoulder against invaders. There are innovative projects like community-based ecotourism initiatives that provide sustainable income while fostering appreciation. For the forest, there are scientific breakthroughs, like the development of technologies to monitor deforestation with unprecedented accuracy, providing crucial data for conservation efforts. And there are reforestation projects, often spearheaded by indigenous communities or NGOs, patiently replanting native species, trying to heal the scars of past destruction. One tree at a time. It's a slow, painstaking process, but it's happening. You might now imagine the subtle, almost imperceptible sounds of the forest at dawn. The first chirps of awakening birds, the rustle of leaves as monkeys begin to stir, the distant roar of a howler monkey echoing through the mist. It's a symphony of life, raw and ancient, reminding you that despite all the human clamor, nature's rhythms persist. The sun, a fiery orb, slowly burns through the morning mist, casting long, ethereal shafts of light onto the forest floor, illuminating patches of dew-kissed leaves and vibrant orchids. And in this light, consider the sheer botanical diversity. We're talking about trees that can live for over 1,000 years, like the Brazil nut tree, a living monument to time, its canopy a universe in itself, or the magnificent kapok tree, with its enormous, buttressed roots that look like giant wooden walls, anchoring it against the fiercest winds. These aren't just timber, they are ancient beings, repositories of genetic information, critical components of the Amazon's hydrological and carbon cycles. Their interconnectedness is profound. Remove one, and you impact countless others. It's like pulling a thread from a magnificent, irreplaceable tapestry. The Amazon also holds secrets about our own species. Recent archaeological discoveries, aided by LiDAR technology, continue to reshape our understanding of ancient human impact. For instance, in the Llanos de Moxos region of Bolivia, evidence has emerged of vast, ancient earthworks, causeways, canals, and raised fields created by pre-Columbian peoples over thousands of years. These weren't just small settlements, they were sophisticated, Large-scale landscape modifications designed to manage water, enhance agricultural productivity, and create habitable land in a seasonally flooded environment. It suggests a level of environmental engineering and societal complexity that challenges the empty wilderness narrative even further than asterisk terra praeter asterisk. Historians are still sifting through the evidence, piecing together the story of these forgotten civilizations. But one thing is clear: humans have been adapting to and shaping the Amazon for a very, very long time, sometimes in highly sustainable ways. These discoveries offer not just historical curiosity, but potentially vital lessons for modern sustainable development in floodplains and other challenging environments. The political dimension of the Amazon's future is often a swirling vortex of national sovereignty, international pressure, and local autonomy. Developing countries in the Amazon basin argue that they have the right to develop their territories, to extract resources to lift their populations out of poverty, much as industrialized nations did during their own periods of rapid growth. They view external pressure to preserve the Amazon as a form of neocolonialism, a hypocrisy from countries that have already deforested their own lands. Meanwhile, environmentalists and developed nations argue that the Amazon is a global common good, a critical climate regulator, and a biodiversity hotspot whose destruction impacts everyone. This tension creates a delicate diplomatic tightrope, where finding common ground and equitable solutions is paramount, but often elusive. It's a debate that plays out in UN conferences, diplomatic backrooms, and often with very real consequences on the ground for the forest and its people. The sheer unpredictability of the Amazon is also part of its enduring allure and challenge. One moment, you're drifting peacefully down a calm river. The next, a sudden, torrential downpour turns the world into a blurring curtain of water, highlighting the raw power of nature. Flash floods can reshape landscapes overnight. New sandbars appear, and old channels disappear. The dynamic nature of the ecosystem means that adaptation, for both humans and nature, is a constant necessity. The forest is not static. It's alive, constantly shifting, growing, decaying, and regenerating. As your mind drifts, imagine the incredibly diverse languages spoken in the Amazon. Over 300 indigenous languages are still spoken, each a unique window into a culture's understanding of the world, their environment, and their history. Each language contains its own lexicon for plants, animals, and ecological processes. A rich tapestry of knowledge that is as fragile as the forest itself. When a language dies, a whole way of seeing and interacting with the world disappears. Efforts to document and preserve these languages, alongside the oral histories and traditional ecological knowledge they carry, are vital acts of cultural preservation, intertwined with the preservation of the forest. It's another library burning, not with fire, but with silence. The Amazonian climate, that oppressive heat and humidity we started with, is not just uncomfortable. It's a fundamental driver of its biodiversity. The consistent warmth and abundant rainfall allow for year-round growth, enabling plants to photosynthesize continuously, fueling an explosion of life. But it also presents challenges. The heat accelerates decomposition, meaning nutrients are recycled quickly, as we noted. It also means that organisms have to adapt to constant moisture, from the fungi that thrive in the damp to the intricate root systems that prevent trees from toppling in saturated soil. It's a delicate balance, where too much or too little of anything can throw the entire system into disarray. And amidst all these discussions of science, politics, and ecology, there remains a spiritual dimension. For many indigenous peoples, the forest is not just a collection of trees and animals. It is a sacred space imbued with spirits, ancestors, and a profound sense of interconnectedness. The trees are not just plants, they are living beings with souls. The rivers are not just waterways, they are arteries of life, deserving of respect and reverence. This worldview, often dismissed by Western industrial societies, offers a powerful counter-narrative to the idea of nature as merely a resource to be exploited. It is a reminder that value can be found beyond the purely economic, in the realm of the spiritual, the aesthetic, and the deeply existential. Perhaps in our quest to understand and save the Amazon, we must also open ourselves to understanding these ancient, profound perspectives. So, the story of the Amazon is not just a scientific report or a historical chronicle. It's a living, breathing saga, written in the rustle of leaves, the roar of a river, the determined steps of an indigenous guardian, and the quiet, almost unheard whisper of a species disappearing. It's a story of survival, of exploitation, of astonishing beauty, and profound loss. It's a tale that continues to unfold, its chapters written not just by the forces of nature, but by the choices we, humanity, make every single day. The weight of those choices, the impact of our distant demands, falls heavily upon this ancient, vibrant land. It's a responsibility that stretches across continents and generations, an echo of a choice made thousands of miles away, reverberating in the humid air of the jungle. The Amazon remains a place of profound mystery. Despite centuries of exploration, much of it remains unexplored, undiscovered. There are still vast tracts of forest where no human foot has trod, where unique species undoubtedly thrive, where ancient ruins might still lie hidden beneath centuries of growth, waiting to be rediscovered. These untouched areas are not just blank spaces on a map. They are living laboratories, genetic reservoirs, and vital sanctuaries. They are the Amazon's last strongholds, the beating heart of its wildness, a promise of what still asterisk can be asterisk if we choose to protect it. They are the living memory of a time before humanity, a quiet, powerful reminder of the planet's own timeline, its own vast history stretching back into the mists of time. And as the distant sounds of the jungle gently lull you further into sleep, the Amazon, ancient and enduring, continues its slow, relentless pulse, dreaming its own dreams, whispering its own secrets, waiting for the next turning point. The river flows on, ever westward, toward the Atlantic, carrying with it the hopes and fears, the life and death of this magnificent, irreplaceable world. Its future remains a canvas, waiting for our collective strokes. Its future remains a canvas, waiting for our collective strokes. And oh, what a messy palette we're working with. A riot of clashing colors and smeared intentions. You can almost feel the weight of expectation, the pressure of global responsibility, settling over the humid canopy. Because these strokes aren't just polite suggestions, they are policy debates echoing in climate summits, commodity prices fluctuating on distant stock exchanges, and the boots-on-the-ground battles fought daily in remote corners of the forest. Consider the grand, ambitious strokes, the concept of carbon credits. Imagine a system where a standing tree is finally worth something on a global market, not just for its timber, but for its role as a carbon sink. The idea is simple. Industrialized nations, seeking to offset their own emissions, pay Amazonian countries or even local communities to protect their forests. It sounds elegant on paper, a win-win, right? Wealthy nations reduce their carbon footprint, and the Amazon gets paid to breathe. But the reality, as always, is far murkier than a clear rainforest stream. You've got to navigate complex negotiations, ensure transparent accounting, no easy feat in a region rife with corruption, and guarantee that the money actually reaches the communities on the front lines, not just vanishing into the pockets of middlemen or corrupt officials. Historians are still debating whether carbon markets will truly be the savior or just another form of green colonialism, an excuse for rich countries to keep polluting while outsourcing their environmental responsibility. It's a delicate balance, trying to turn a sacred ecosystem into a tradable commodity without inadvertently commodifying the very people who protect it. And speaking of global responsibility, you might find yourself in a metaphorical, very uncomfortable conference room, listening to politicians and diplomats squabble over the Amazon's fate. There's the constant push and pull between national sovereignty, the right of a country to manage its own territory, and the undeniable fact that the Amazon's health is a global imperative. Brazil, holding the lion's share of the forest, often bristles at international interference, arguing that wealthy nations, having already destroyed much of their own natural heritage, shouldn't dictate how developing countries use their resources. It's a valid point, fraught with historical baggage. The solution, if there is one, lies in genuine partnership, respectful dialogue, and substantial financial support, not just finger-wagging from afar. You can practically hear the collective sigh of exasperation from environmentalists in the back of the room as another decade ticks by with more talk than action. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, the strokes being applied are often much more brutal, much more immediate. Think of the land grabs, vast tracts of public land, or even indigenous territories are illegally claimed by individuals or corporations. They clear a patch of forest, often with fire, build a fence, maybe put a few cattle on it, and then claim possession. The process is often facilitated by corrupt land registries and local authorities, turning what should be a straightforward legal process into a chaotic, violent free-for-all. For the indigenous communities who have lived on these lands for millennia, without formal titles in the Western sense, this is an existential threat. They are forced to defend their ancestral homes against armed invaders, often with little to no state protection. You can almost hear the low hum of distant motorbikes, carrying men with chainsaws and a chilling sense of entitlement, approaching the quiet clearing of an isolated community. The struggle for land tenure is incredibly vital. Studies have consistently shown that legally recognized indigenous territories have significantly lower rates of deforestation. It has a simple truth: empower the people who know the forest best, and have the most to lose, and they become its most effective guardians. But securing these legal protections, getting maps drawn, boundaries respected, and titles issued is a painfully slow, bureaucratic process, often undermined by political shifts and powerful vested interests. It's a race against the chainsaw, and bureaucracy rarely wins that kind of sprint. You might also consider the digital strokes being painted across the Amazon. Thanks to advances in satellite technology, we can now monitor deforestation with astonishing precision, almost in real time. Organizations and even local communities can track forest loss, pinpoint illegal operations, and disseminate this information to the world. It's harder for illegal loggers to hide when their activities are literally visible from space. But remote sensing is only half the battle. The information still needs to be acted upon, translated into enforcement on the ground. And that's where the human element, with all its flaws and courage, comes in. Imagine a small team of environmental police, vastly outnumbered, navigating treacherous terrain, armed with satellite printouts and a grim determination, heading towards a distant, smoking scar in the forest. The Amazon, in its vastness, is also a living laboratory for climate science. Scientists are tirelessly collecting data, building complex models, trying to predict that dreaded tipping point with more accuracy. They are studying how changes in rainfall patterns affect different species, how increased temperatures impact forest health, and how the forest itself responds to stress. They measure the flow of water through trees, the subtle shifts in atmospheric chemistry, the resilience of specific plant communities. It's a monumental undertaking, trying to understand an ecosystem so complex that it makes a human brain look like a single neuron. And the data they're collecting, often gathered under incredibly challenging conditions, paints an increasingly urgent picture. The Amazon is changing, and fast. You can almost hear the scientists' hushed tones, the furrowed brows, as they review the latest projections, the weight of the future heavy on their shoulders. What about the impact of global events, the unforeseen strokes that ripple across the world? Take a global economic downturn or a pandemic, for instance. You might think it would slow down deforestation as demand for commodities drops. But often, the opposite is true. Economic desperation can drive more people into illegal activities like gold mining or logging, as legitimate opportunities dry up. Government oversight might also weaken as resources are diverted elsewhere. It's a reminder that the Amazon is not an isolated bubble. It's intimately connected to the booms and busts, the crises and opportunities of the entire global economy. It feels the distant tremors of Wall Street and the faint coughs of a virus spreading across continents. The very concept of wilderness in the Amazon is increasingly challenged. We've seen how ancient peoples shaped it. Now, modern humans are carving it up, sometimes with grand plans. Imagine massive infrastructure projects beyond just dams. We're talking about new roads that cross national borders, railway lines to transport minerals, or even colossal waterways designed to turn the Amazon into a vast superhighway for barges carrying soybeans. Each project, touted as development and progress, often comes with irreversible environmental consequences, opening up new frontiers for destruction, fragmenting habitats, and displacing communities. You might hear the distant rumble of heavy machinery, the grinding of gears, a mechanical beast tearing through the silence, leaving behind a trail of uprooted earth and shattered dreams. And yet, within this narrative of profound challenge, there are whispers of hope, small but tenacious strokes of resilience and innovation. Local communities, often with the support of NGOs, are pioneering sustainable alternatives to destructive practices. Instead of illegal logging, they might be engaged in sustainable harvesting of non-timber forest products like Brazil nuts, acai, or rubber, the *good* kind, the sustainably sourced kind. They might be cultivating native fish species in community-managed aquaculture ponds, reducing pressure on wild stocks. Or they might be running small-scale ecotourism initiatives, guiding visitors through their ancestral lands, sharing their culture and knowledge, demonstrating that a living forest can be more valuable than a cleared one. It's slow, hard work, often underfunded and facing immense odds, but it is a tangible step towards a future where the Amazon can thrive economically and ecologically. You might even see the surprising re-emergence of species once thought lost, or the successful reintroduction of others into protected areas. Perhaps a rare macaw, glimpsed in a remote corner of the canopy, its vibrant plumage a flash of defiant beauty, or a jaguar caught on a trail camera, its powerful presence a sign that conservation efforts are slowly, painstakingly making a difference. These moments, fleeting as they might be, are powerful reminders that nature, given half a chance, possesses an incredible capacity for recovery. The Amazon is also teaching us profound lessons about ecological restoration. It's not just about planting trees, which is challenging enough given the sheer diversity of species and the harsh conditions of degraded land. It's about understanding the complex relationships between soil, water, plants, and microorganisms. It's about recreating that wide web, nurturing the hidden networks of fungi that are essential for nutrient cycling. Scientists are experimenting with innovative techniques, from planting nurse trees that provide shade and improve soil conditions for other species, to using drones to disperse seeds over vast areas. It's a long, arduous process, a marathon of rehabilitation that will take decades, even centuries, to heal the deepest scars. But it's a testament to the fact that we are slowly, painfully, learning how to work with the forest, rather than simply against it. But the most compelling strokes on this canvas are often the most personal. Imagine the indigenous activists, not just Raoni, but a new generation, young, tech-savvy, articulate, using social media to tell their story to the world, organizing protests, lobbying governments, and fighting legal battles. They are fierce protectors of their heritage, their languages, and their lands, often facing threats and violence for their courage. You might hear their voices clear and resonant, cutting through the humid air, speaking of ancient prophecies and modern injustices, reminding the world that the Amazon is not just a carbon sink or a resource, but a homeland, a sacred inheritance. Their resilience, born of millennia of living in harmony with the forest, is perhaps the Amazon's greatest strength. The emotional toll of this struggle is immense. For those living on the front lines, the fear of violence, the heartbreak of watching their ancestral lands burn, the constant uncertainty about the future, can be overwhelming. But there is also an incredible sense of purpose, a deep spiritual connection that fuels their resistance. They understand, perhaps more intimately than anyone, that their fate is inextricably linked to the fate of the forest. When the trees fall, their culture, their way of life, also begin to crumble. As you consider the sheer scope of this struggle from the macro level of global climate policy to the micro level of a single community defending its patch of forest, you realize that the Amazon's future is truly a reflection of humanity's choices. Will we succumb to short-term greed and narrow national interests? Or will we rise to the challenge of collective responsibility, recognizing that the health of this vast, vital ecosystem is fundamentally linked to our own survival? Will we learn from the ancient wisdom of its first inhabitants? Or will we continue down a path of unchecked exploitation? The sounds of the Amazon begin to shift again as your mental journey progresses. The rhythmic hum of distant cicadas, the splash of a fish jumping in the river, the soft murmur of wind through the leaves. These sounds are layered over by the more jarring notes of human activity. The drone of a small plane flying overhead, perhaps carrying illegal prospectors. The distant chugging of a riverboat, laden with timber. The faint crackle of a radio from a remote mining camp. It's a symphony of coexistence, albeit a strained and often violent one, where the ancient rhythms of nature are constantly interrupted by the clamor of the modern world. And amidst this cacophony, you might perceive an almost imperceptible shift in the very asterisk feel asterisk of the forest. The air, while still humid, carries a different quality in places, a subtle scent of smoke, or the metallic tang of disturbed earth. The vibrant green might be interspersed with patches of brown, the stark outlines of dead trees against the sky. These are the subtle brushstrokes of change, the physical manifestations of all those choices being made, those battles being fought, those policies being debated. The canvas is not static. It is constantly being worked upon, sometimes beautifully, sometimes tragically. The very scale of the Amazon continues to humble and astonish. It holds not just millions of species, but also immense quantities of fresh water, roughly 1/5 of the world's total freshwater discharge. Imagine the power of that river, shaping landscapes, transporting nutrients, sustaining an unparalleled web of aquatic life. This colossal water system, with its thousands of tributaries, defines life in the basin. It's a liquid highway, a food source, a spiritual entity, and a powerful force shaping the very climate. But its power is not limitless. Pollution, overfishing, and damming can choke this lifeblood, turning vibrant ecosystems into stagnant pools, disrupting the delicate balance that has sustained life for millennia. The economic pressures on Amazonian countries are immense, and they are not easily dismissed. They are developing nations, often grappling with poverty, inequality, and the desire to provide a better quality of life for their citizens. When you're faced with the immediate need to feed a population or provide jobs, the long-term, abstract benefits of carbon sequestration can feel incredibly distant. This is where the international community's rhetoric often clashes with the harsh realities on the ground. True solutions must address these socio-economic challenges, providing viable, sustainable alternatives that allow communities to prosper without destroying their natural heritage. It's about finding paths to development that are genuinely green, genuinely equitable, and genuinely empowering for local populations, rather than simply imposing external conservation mandates. Think of the amazing biodiversity of the Amazonian flora again. Beyond the towering trees and showy flowers, there are plants with truly astonishing properties. The asterisk Uncaria tomentosa asterisk, commonly known as cat's claw, a woody vine whose bark is used in traditional medicine for its anti-inflammatory properties, currently being studied for potential cancer treatments, or the asterisk Pollinia cupana asterisk, or guarana, its seeds packed with caffeine, used by indigenous groups as a stimulant for millennia, now a global ingredient in energy drinks. The forest is a treasure chest of phytochemicals, each plant a miniature factory of unique compounds, many still unstudied, their secrets still locked away. Protecting this biological library is not just an ecological imperative. It's an investment in the future of medicine, agriculture, and countless other fields. Imagine the breakthroughs waiting to be discovered, vanishing with every acre of forest cleared. The Amazonian night, as you drift further into sleep, is not truly silent. It's a tapestry of sounds. The rustle of unseen creatures, the chirps and clicks of nocturnal insects, the distant hoot of an owl, the croaking chorus of frogs. Every sound is a thread in the intricate fabric of life, a testament to the vibrant, continuous pulse of the ecosystem. It's a reminder that even in its quietest moments, the forest is alive, teeming, constantly adapting, constantly enduring. And this endurance, this incredible tenacity, is perhaps the most powerful stroke on the canvas. Despite all the pressures, all the destruction, the Amazon persists. It is ancient, resilient, and utterly magnificent. It has seen countless generations of life and death, witnessed geological upheavals and dramatic climate shifts. It has absorbed the impact of human endeavors for thousands of years and continues to breathe, to grow, to regenerate. The question, then, is not whether the Amazon asterisk can asterisk survive, but whether asterisk we asterisk will allow it to. Whether our collective strokes on this vast canvas will ultimately paint a future of continued degradation or one of renewed balance, respect, and thriving biodiversity. The choice, my friends, is still ours to make. And the sun, for now, is rising on another day in the Amazon, waiting for those strokes to fall. And the sun, for now, is rising on another day in the Amazon, waiting for those strokes to fall. It's a spectacular daily rebirth, a slow, golden bleed across the eastern sky, painting the uppermost canopy in hues of orange and rose, before the pervasive green reclaims its dominance. You hear the morning chorus swelling a symphony far grander than any human orchestra, as countless bird species greet the dawn, their calls intertwining with the chirps of insects, and the distant throaty rumble of a howler monkey, a sound so primal it vibrates in your very bones. This daily miracle, this relentless unfolding of life, is a powerful counterpoint to the human clamor, a quiet testament to the forest's enduring vitality, its stubborn refusal to completely yield. And it is this vitality, this profound resilience, that offers the most compelling strokes for the future's canvas. Because for all the grim realities, for all the talk of tipping points and destruction, the Amazon is still fighting, still thriving in vast areas, and increasingly people are fighting for it with renewed vigor and ingenuity. You might envision new champions emerging, not just the brave indigenous leaders we've already touched upon, but a whole constellation of dedicated individuals and organizations, each contributing their own unique stroke to the masterpiece of preservation. Think of the scientists, now armed with more than just boots and notebooks. They're deploying drones with thermal cameras to spot illegal logging at night, using artificial intelligence to analyze satellite imagery and predict deforestation hotspots even. Developing innovative ecological monitoring systems that listen to the forest's acoustic signature, the unique symphony of its creatures, to detect changes in biodiversity. It's a remarkable fusion of cutting-edge technology and deep ecological understanding, turning the vast, challenging terrain into a landscape that can be more effectively observed and, hopefully, protected. The jungle might be ancient, but the tools used to defend it are decidedly futuristic. And then there are the legal battles, often fought tirelessly in dimly lit courtrooms far from the humid forest floor, yet with immense repercussions. Lawyers, often working pro bono, are filing lawsuits against illegal actors, challenging destructive development projects, and defending the land rights of indigenous communities. These legal battles are slow grinding and often frustrating. But each victory, no matter how small, sets a precedent reinforcing the idea that the Amazon is not a lawless frontier, but a place where rights must be respected and environmental crimes punished. It's a different kind of frontline, fought with briefs and evidence rather than machetes, but just as crucial in the long run. Consider the burgeoning movement of forest economy or bioeconomy. This isn't just about sustainable harvesting, it's about developing entire value chains around non-timber forest products that inherently rely on a healthy, standing forest. Imagine communities cultivating rare medicinal plants, processing fruits like acai or cupuku into high-value products, or sustainably managing fish stocks to create thriving local industries. This is about proving that the living forest is worth more, economically, than the dead one. It's about creating pathways for dignified livelihoods that are intrinsically tied to conservation. Shifting from extraction to stewardship, it requires significant investment, market access, and technical expertise. But it represents a powerful economic argument for preservation, a recognition that true wealth lies in biodiversity, not just in commodities. You might even see a new generation of entrepreneurs, often young Amazonians themselves, leveraging social media and e-commerce to connect their sustainable products directly to global markets, bypassing exploitative middlemen. They're telling their stories, showcasing their unique cultural heritage, and building businesses that are both profitable and regenerative. It's a quiet revolution, proving that local ingenuity, empowered by technology, can be a formidable force for positive change. And the global awareness, though sometimes fleeting and often drowned out by other headlines, is still growing. Consumers are becoming savvier, demanding transparency in supply chains, putting pressure on corporations to ensure their products aren't linked to deforestation or human rights abuses. Certifications for sustainable timber, responsible soy, and ethical beef are gaining traction, creating market incentives for better practices. It's not a silver bullet, and greenwashing is a constant threat, but it shifts the economic needle. However slowly, towards sustainability. You can feel the collective consciousness, a subtle but growing pressure, pushing back against unchecked exploitation. Remember those ancient earthworks we talked about? The proof of millennia of human habitation and sustainable land management? The very existence of terra preta this human-made miracle soil, serves not just as a historical curiosity, but as an inspiration for modern ecological restoration. Scientists and agronomists are studying its composition, trying to understand its enduring fertility, hoping to replicate its principles to restore degraded lands in the Amazon. Imagine turning a barren, deforested pasture back into a productive, living landscape, not just for cattle, but for diverse plants and eventually returning wildlife. It's a slow, painstaking process requiring a profound understanding of ecological systems. But it's a tangible symbol of hope, a belief in regeneration and healing. This takes us to the concept of rewilding, a grand vision where once degraded areas are actively restored to a state where natural processes can take over, allowing the forest to heal itself. It's not just about planting trees, it's about connecting fragmented habitats, reintroducing keystone species, and removing barriers to natural migration. Picture vast, formerly deforested areas slowly being reabsorbed by the relentless, all-consuming green. Rivers, once choked with sediment, gradually clearing, their waters once again teeming with life. Species returning to their ancestral homes, reclaiming their ecological niches. It's a long-term vision, perhaps stretching over centuries. But it's a powerful testament to humanity's capacity for repair, for choosing restoration over relentless destruction. The Amazon, in its magnificent, sprawling expanse, holds lessons not just for its own future, but for the future of the entire planet. It teaches us about interconnectedness, about the delicate balance of ecosystems, about the profound value of biodiversity, and about the wisdom embedded in ancient cultures. It reminds us that every single species, from the tiniest microbe to the tallest tree, plays an irreplaceable role in the grand tapestry of life. It's a living, breathing library of biological knowledge, a pharmacy filled with undiscovered cures, and a climate regulator of global significance. Its continued health is not a luxury, it is a necessity for all of us, wherever we may live. As you drift further into the gentle embrace of sleep, the sounds of the Amazon begin to soften, receding into a comforting hum. The sharp edge of the chainsaw fades, replaced by the rhythmic drip of moisture from leaves. The distant, murmuring rush of the river, the soft chirps and clicks of a million unseen creatures settling into the night. The urgency of the day's struggles gives way to the deep, slow pulse of the forest itself, a heartbeat as ancient as time, steady and unyielding. You feel the air around you growing softer, lighter, no longer the oppressive heat and humidity, but a gentle, comforting warmth. The dense canopy above slowly transforms its layers, dissolving into the vast limitless expanse of the night sky studded with 1 billion twinkling stars, each one a distant sun, a silent witness to the quiet unfolding of life on Earth. The vibrant colors of the macaws and orchids soften into the muted tones of twilight, then the deep, embracing blues and purples of slumber. The journey we've taken together through ancient civilizations and rubber booms through scientific discoveries and ongoing struggles, has been a glimpse into a world both astonishingly beautiful and profoundly threatened. But remember, the Amazon is more than just a place of conflict. It is a place of enduring magic, of boundless wonder, a testament to the sheer, magnificent power of life itself. It cradles secrets untold, species undiscovered, and wisdom yet unlearned. It is a source of life, not just for the continent it spans, but for the entire world, a lung, a heart, a vast, living reservoir of life's boundless possibilities. So, as your consciousness gently expands, let the image of this incredible forest settle deep within you. Imagine it breathing, vast and tranquil, its countless leaves turning sunlight into life, its mighty rivers flowing unimpeded to the sea, carrying the whispers of millennia. Feel the quiet strength of its ancient trees, their roots reaching deep into the earth, their branches reaching towards the heavens, standing sentinel for all time. Listen for the subtle symphony of its unseen inhabitants, a chorus of life that has played on for eons, a gentle reassurance that even in the face of immense challenges, life finds a way. The struggles are real, yes, and the challenges immense, but so too is the resilience, the determination, the hope. The story of the Amazon, like the forest itself, is a testament to the power of regeneration, the quiet persistence of life against all odds. It is a reminder that beauty endures, that wilderness can still thrive, and that every conscious choice, every whisper of concern, every act of protection contributes to the grand, unfolding narrative. You are a part of this story now, connected by the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the dreams you carry. And now, as the last vestiges of the Amazoness, vibrant imagery gently fade from your mind, SI, leaving only a sense of profound peace and interconnectedness. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the soft currents of sleep. The journey is complete, the story told for now. Rest easily, knowing that in the quiet hours of the night, across the vast, green heart of the world, the Amazon continues its slow, ancient breath, a silent guardian of life's precious balance. May your dreams be as vast and as tranquil as the river itself, carrying you gently through the night, until the soft light of morning calls you back to your own waking world. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully, knowing that the great forest, in its vastness and enduring spirit, watches over us all,